Well, the third argument is an argument for design based upon the fine-tuning of the universe for life. And it goes something like this. Premise one, the fine-tuning of the universe for intelligent life is due to either physical necessity, chance, or design. Second premise is it is not due to physical necessity or to chance, from which it follows logically, three, therefore, it is due to design.
So explain number two. In other words, the universe doesn't have to be beautiful and ordered. Was that what that number two is?
That's correct. What scientists have discovered is that from the very moment of the Big Bang, the universe was fine-tuned with literally an incomprehensible precision and delicacy for the existence of intelligent life, such that if these constants or quantities had been altered by less than a hair's breadth, life would have been impossible, and there would be no life of any sort throughout the entire cosmos. And the question is, how do you best explain this appearance of design? Well, physical necessity would say the universe has to be that way. It must be finely tuned. But that is extraordinarily implausible because you see these finely tuned constants and quantities that we're talking about are independent of the laws of nature. They are not determined by nature's laws. They're just arbitrarily put in at the beginning, inexplicably. So they're not physically necessary. Now somebody might say, well, it's just due to chance. It's just a lucky accident. But the problem with that alternative is that it has no appreciation of the fantastic odds that we're talking about here. For example, if the subatomic weak force had been altered by as little as 1 part out of 10 to the 100th power, that's 10 followed by 100 zeros, the universe would not have been life-permitting. And there are a dozen or more of these kinds of constants and quantities, all of which have to fall into this exquisitely narrow range of life-permitting values in order for the universe to be life-permitting. So that the idea that this happened just by chance is just infinitesimally probable.
In fact, I think non-believing statisticians and philosophers have said there hasn't been enough time in that 13.7 billion years for that type of chance to bring about the kind of order that we're seeing.
Right. I mean, to give you an idea of the numbers we're talking about, there have been only around 10 to the 17th power seconds in the history of the universe. And now we're talking about odds like 1 out of 10 to the 100th power. And this is just one parameter, and there are, as I say, many of them.
So in this conversation, the argument from order is what you think is one of the strongest arguments for the existence of an intelligent designer of some
Yes,
kind.
and it's not just I who think this. This is something that has become really all the rage in current cosmology, this subject of the fine-tuning of the universe. And scientists are baffled by this, and those who want to resist design as the best explanation are frankly adopting fantastic metaphysical hypotheses to avoid this.
Well, one of the things I've come to is they say, okay, our universe isn't old enough to explain this, so they go to the multi-universe theory.
Exactly.
And explain the multi-universe theory very quickly.
Okay, the idea here is basically this. If the odds are too small that in one throw of the dice you would get a certain result, then what you postulate is many throws of the dice. The more times you throw the dice, the better your odds of getting a certain result. So, the idea is that in order for our universe to be explained by chance alone, what you do is you postulate an infinite number of other parallel universes, which are undetectable to us. We have no knowledge of them, no way of detecting them, but they are randomly ordered. All of the values of the constants and quantities appear somewhere in this world ensemble of universes. And so, by chance alone, somewhere in the world ensemble, a finely tuned universe like ours would exist. And I think it is a compliment to the power of this design argument that otherwise sober scientists would resort to metaphysical hypotheses of this sort simply in order to avoid a divine design